Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Discovery Road. I'm James Nelson. A dream mine continues to lure in the curious and stir up the dynamic past about treasure buried in a Utah mountain for those who truly believe. Then a riveting account about one man's story of a UFO experience that he kept quiet until his final days on Earth. Then a trip across the pond where visitations are coupled with strange stories about aliens and spacecraft. And finally, a trip to northern Utah, where one ranch, believe it or not, is trying to unmask a secret. That's going to shake up the neighborhood. It all started a very long time ago with a dream. A young man's portal, seeing a world in turmoil, hidden treasure, and good fortune.
Hiram Coyle was born in Spanish Fork in 1864, and he was a young farmer's son, was raised there in that area. And in 1886, he had a dream that a cow with a broken horn who jabbed his own eye would appear and in a field, and he indeed found such an animal that time. So he started believing that he was one that could have dreams that had meaning to them.
So from an early age, visions had become part of John Hiram Coyle's persona. He was a faithful Mormon, a married man with sons and daughters from pioneer stock, a farmer, and oh yes, a dreamer. In 1894, the self-styled oracle saw buried gold and artifacts from an ancient people hidden above Salem, Utah, on Nob Hill. It would become the Dream Mine.
So it's fascinating. Throughout history, there have been dreams and dreamers, things that have come to pass. It's also interesting along the way that Coyle had other dreams about national problems. He dreamed about the beginning of the start of World War I, was quite accurate when that started. And he also dreamed about the stock market crash in 1929 and was right on that too. So he had believers and followers along the way.
Friends and quiet crusaders applauded the Coyle saga. The digging, drilling, and mining went forth for years, like a Sunday school lesson plan. These historic maps and drawings show the operation. Shares were sold, but there would be no gold strikes, no matter what the clairvoyant dirt farmer preached.
But there are believers. They're believers because, it's part of Mormon culture, it's part of human nature that stories like this do grow legs and seem to get bigger as time goes on. And there's some diehards that will not give up the idea that the Talmud was probably right. There's no precious metals in there. So there are some that sincerely believe someday their ship's going to come in.
In the 1970s, a ship did arrive at the Dream Mine, a spaceship, according to this man, Paul Solom. He was known as the Flying Saucer Prophet.
Okay, so there was a lot of time that happened with some sort of ETs. There's been all kinds of extraterrestrial stories that people have seen here on the mountain. I personally never had any experiences that way, but there was a time when a lot of different people had claimed to have seen a lot of stuff happening around this time. And that was later on in the 70s or 80s even. It wasn't even, way back when.
Solom claimed to have had contact, conversations, and visitations from space beings. In Lost Sinks, Idaho, he watched a saucer land and then communicated with an alien who told him he was a spiritual leader on the planet Venus. In Arizona in 1970, Solom announced his powers to call in flying saucers. And believe it or not, a few times, strange discs did show up. He spent time with the Hopi Indians, who had their own lens on the sky and beyond.
Kachina dolls are replicas of the deities that came in to save the Hopi people when they're going through a drought. And they were starving out.
Hopi Kachina dolls carved from cottonwood and painted into an assortment of mythical figures, bearing an array of powerful messages connected to long-standing benevolent spirit beings.
The deities, the colorful beings, flew in and stayed with the tribe for about half a year, and they kept bringing in food, gifts, and that's why today you go out, observe the Kachinas, they're always bringing watermelon, corn, they give it out to the people, and that's emulating what the real spiritual deities did for the tribe. And so they stayed about half a year, and then they go home. They went home in July, and were still performing those ceremonies to feed the people out there. And money is no object, even though we might be poor, but it's better to feed somebody. And that's where the Kachinas come from, and they flew back home, wherever home is.
It was an open meadow tucked quietly among the strikingly beautiful and rugged Elkhorn Mountains in Big Sky Country, where a lone miner experienced a life-changing encounter with an unidentified flying object. Digging into the side of a mountain, sweating, shoveling, and searching for earthly treasure in a mine, Udo Wartena unwittingly struck a payload he never imagined. This is Tim Grossnickel, who grew up knowing Udo and the story, and how the long-ago hard-to-believe incident finally came to the surface for all the world to comprehend.
Let me tell you how I learned of Udo's encounter with visitors from another planet.
In May of 1940, as World War II continued boiling across Europe, Wartena, a Dutch immigrant miner, methodically worked his claim, moving rock, digging, and clearing out a promising area.
I first heard the story up in the Blue Mountains of Oregon, elk hunting with my brothers and my father. And we were around the campfire that evening, and my father said, "Let me tell you a story, but it's a real story." And my father was a wonderful storyteller, as you can tell from his journals, but he began describing Udo Wartena's experience, and I knew who Udo Wartena was, we all did. So there wasn't any question of whether he was credible or not. We grew up with him. But as Dad began to tell the story, he described Udo as a returned missionary, but he was up in Montana mining. He had a claim of his own. He was working for a mining company, but he had a claim that he was working outside of Helena, Montana. And he heard a noise, a whirring noise. He didn't pay too much attention, but it continued as he was in his claim, kind of trying to move some big boulders.
Udo dropped his shovel, walked up to a nearby clearing, and stepped into a scene of strangeness and exceedingly unreal drama. A spaceship hovering in the field.
He called it a blimp in his mind. And he walked toward it, very curious, and the ship was 100 feet wide and 35 feet through. He walked toward it, and out of the ship's hull came a set of stairs, and a man came down and walked toward him, and then it stopped about 8 feet apart, and the man introduced himself. Udo thought he was about 35 or so, same age as Udo. Very handsome, healthy fellow, just looked like us, and he apologized and said, we don't usually like to disturb anyone or be seen, so we've come here often. Is it okay with you or we've come here before, is it okay with you if we draw some water from the sluice stream? And he just said, sure.
As the ship took on water through a drop-down hose, Udo accepted an invitation to see the inside of the spacecraft, where he would meet another older man. They did some sort of scan of the Earthling in case there were any impurities. The visitors explained their spaceship power source, drawing energy and pull from stars and planets in a way Udo had never heard of. The age of the two men, one was over 600 years old, the other over 900 years old. Their mission, at least in part, was to watch over us.
They're called aliens, and they're remember the movie War of the Worlds and so on? Anyway, a scary sci-fi, and a lot of movies suggest that they're warlike people. No, he said, none of that. They're intelligent, remember? They're so advanced of us, they even feel sorry for us. Which was quite a comment for him to make. That we have to go through this youthful time in our development.
Grossnickel read from Udo's own account his actual words of how the spaceship rendezvous ended.
When I walked away from the ship, they raised the stairway. When I got a couple 100 feet away from the ship, I turned around. And he doesn't say it here, but when the ship, let me describe. A number of more portholes opened up so that though I could see no one, I'm sure they could see me anyway. I waved at them, and the ship rose straight up, and while circling slightly, it continued going straight. In a very short while, was completely out of sight.
The space visitors urged Udo not to reveal what happened under the blue Montana sky that day, at least not for a long time, because people wouldn't believe him. He did wait for more than half a century before he told his story.
This is something that Udo would say over and over. They were just such beautiful beings, such intelligent and kind people. I would just really love to see them again. In fact, he said ever since then, all of his life, he looked for people that looked like this. Because he was sure he could recognize them. In fact, he even followed some people a couple of times. It wasn't them.
Though he never saw them again, he would never forget the experience and their implicit regard for all of humanity.
I got the impression that they held back a lot of information from him, but they're describing their coming often and living among us and monitoring the progression and retrogression of our society suggests that they're going back and reporting to wise and developed people saying they're not ready yet for this or that, or this is how it's going downhill now with a Second World War. I think they would be, for some reason, he suggested this, Udo suggested this to me, they are keenly interested in the history of this planet, what has happened and what will happen. It is as if what has happened here affects them to some great degree.
Celebration. And then that one is Wales Forever.
This is Wales, Utah, a long ago mining town where people have always worked hard, loved music, and celebrated their colorful past. We don't have any reports of UFO sightings in this tiny little Utah hamlet. But across the Atlantic Ocean, over there, in that other Wales, in the United Kingdom, oh yes, Their relatives and many others have been shaken to their bones by the unusual, unknown mysteries in the skies. Looking back over the years, you'll find lots of shared history between Utah and Wales in the United Kingdom, Butch Cassidy connections, mining, and music, a combined culture and heritage on both sides of the Atlantic. And now you can add UFOs to the list. And of course, it's a short flight from Utah in the United States to Wales in the United Kingdom if you're in a flying saucer.
So we're standing in Landymore, a small village in South Wales in the UK, on the coast, and this is basically the location where the UFO landed.
October 7th, 2010 is when Davis saw the UFO. These many years later, he is still gripped by the experience.
So this craft was huge. As soon as it started to move, I felt I was in a bubble, and this bubble just burst, and I suddenly became aware of, what am I doing in this field? And there was like a mist around the field, all around my ankles, and it was very eerie.
So here we are at the bottom of the Aeron Valley where I live, and along the tree line there is where the River Aeron runs. And the UFO that I saw was around about where that row of houses is over there in the distance at the back end of the valley. And it moved to the west, hovered for about a minute in a straight line, and then in a straight line trajectory moved back to the east. As it was going, it was dripping this molten magma, and just before it went out of sight, the top half of the sphere turned a bright red light, and it was the size of a house.
When I was 13 years old, I saw a UFO in Swansea, in the suburbs of the town. That night was known as Night of the Triangles locally, because there was many sightings that night.
3 eyewitnesses, 3 unrelated people, whose lives have been altered forever from a mystifying encounter. They are also aware of the strange incidents and reports of odd objects in the skies across America. They follow television shows about UFO sightings in Utah, a bizarre kinship of sorts, while they continue to push for more enlightenment about what happened to them.
I'm staring at it thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. No feeling of, scare. I wasn't scared. It didn't feel, a negative energy there. But one thing I did notice when I looking at it, was the whole street was silent. It was as if it was in a vacuum. It was like a pin could drop as you're, looking at it. But my intention while I was looking at it, my only thing was, why are you here? Obviously, any question is, why? Why here? Why now?
I know what I saw. What I saw was real. What I saw was not of this earth, and it was something highly unusual. I wasn't sleepwalking. I don't drink. I don't take drugs. It's real.
Yeah, this is 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop research based on the fact that I've seen so many things that I'm trying to find answers. I wouldn't be wasting my time on this. I'm a businessman. It has affected my business. It has affected my life. But it's based on real things that have happened, and I'm just out for answers, and I'm out to help everyone get answers. And I want this to be a humanity-changing event when this does come out.
There is one unique place on the planet that continues to bewilder, puzzle, and mystify people. It's here, just outside of Roosevelt, Utah. The beautiful sky and wonderful landscape paint a welcoming picture, a reserved lifestyle for the 6,000 or so residents, farms, ranches, and some oil reserves in the Uinta Basin. And oh yes, of course, there's that big secret that the entire world is trying to figure out.
You know, I grew up here in the Uinta Basin, here in northeastern Utah, and it has long been the center of a lot of paranormal activity. You know, growing up, I remember hearing a lot of stories of UFOs, all kinds of crazy phenomena.
Thomas Winterton knows his stuff. He not only grew up around here, he's now boss at Skinwalker Ranch, home of the popular television series, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, known worldwide as a hotspot for strangeness, where sightings, spirit beings, and baffling occurrences are served up like an everyday breakfast.
So you see that biggest rock that's kind of on the slant right there? That's where the petroglyph is at. If I need to move my finger so it lines up with your camera.
Got it. So, how big generally is the area known as the ranch?
So Skinwalker Ranch is 512 acres. And we're on the eastern side. The mesa right here, this is known as Skinwalker Ridge, or the path of the Skinwalker. And you know, the legend is that the Skinwalker traverses the ridge of the mesa all the way across. As I've been the manager of Skinwalker Ranch, it's been amazing to me. I've had hundreds of people come to me, you know, at the grocery store, the post office, around town, and they all have their own story to share with me. A lot of times they have pictures on their phone or photos that were taken, whether it was an animal mutilation or a UFO, whatever the strange event was. I've just seen so much documentation from the local area residents, from really all over the Uinta Basin.
Nearly every doggone day, locals spot Winterton and anxiously share what they've seen. Then he goes to work at the place where secrecy hides and mystery thrives. Yikes.
Almost immediately after starting on the ranch, I started witnessing and experiencing things that we just can't explain away with any prosaic or mundane, you know, reason. And really quickly, I had to come to the conclusion that there's a lot that we don't understand. We definitely don't have a complete understanding of the law of physics. And you know, there's a lot more that goes on in this world than meets the eye.
The mind-boggling incidents up here just might be a teaching moment youngsters will gravitate to and eventually help all of us resolve the unknown, curious, just beyond our reach secret.
We really don't like using the term paranormal. Paranormal to us is just science that we don't understand yet. And so as we dive into the subject matter and we try to understand the science behind it, it's really encouraging to see the younger generation embrace that, be open-minded to it, and really you know, flock towards it. And so it's been fun for my own children, you know, as they're out and about and the kids find out that their dad is on television. You know, it's been fun for them to kind of have that claim to fame, but it definitely has been surprising how well the younger generation has really embraced this topic.
Hard to believe remarkable stories, very strange connections to the past, and a hefty dose of mystery. That's one more file cabinet wheeled down the hallway to that dark room where truth remains dormant and hidden in the fog. I'm James Nelson. We'll see you next time, way out here on Discovery Road.
You know, we have strange phenomena that happen on a regular basis across the entire Uinta Basin. But for whatever reason, Skinwalker Ranch seems to be the epicenter of this activity. And, you know, people ask me all the time, what do you think it is? And my answer to that is I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure that there is an it and that there's an intelligence to it.
something